The Q Radio Pets Corner.
With Brandy Dog Food, because they're 100% family. You know you're giving them the best.
Q Radio.
Q Radio.
Welcome to Pets Corner with me, Sharon Jennings. Coming up in today's show, we get tips on looking after small animals, and I talk to the MP who's campaigning to crack down on puppy farms.
The Q Radio Pets Corner.
Q Radio. Lots of us live in smaller places nowadays and we work full time, so having a dog or a larger animal really isn't an option, but many people are opting to have smaller animals. And joining me now is Mark McCracken from Grove Vet in Ballymena to give us some tips on looking after small pets. You're very welcome, Mark.
Hi, Sharon.
So, Mark, are there any sort of straightforward tips you should think about when living with a small animal?
It's so important to do your research before you actually just go and get a small pet. The sorts of things to think about are, first of all, environment. What temperature does it need to be kept at? Does it need company, or should it be kept on its own? Are there any particular sort of health and welfare requirements which are specific for that particular species? A lot of these wee species have different dietary requirements, and it's really essential to be aware of those before you get one.
I always think it's really sad that people have rabbits, because I think of rabbits as quite social animals, being very active. I think it's very sad when you see rabbits sort of stuck in a house. Do you think that they can be happy in that environment?
You're quite right. Rabbits are social creatures, and it is wise to try and keep them as part of a group. And if you are going to keep rabbits, a good combination to have a neutered male and a neutered female together. And there's lots of things that you can do even within the confines of a small house to improve that rabbit's quality of life. Having things available to the wee rabbit which allows it to perform sort of natural behaviours. They have to be able to exercise, they have to be able to run, hop and jump. Those are all things that you can do within the confines of a small flat or a small area to ensure the wee rabbit has a good quality of life.
Introducing small animals to children is a good way of socialising children with animals and becoming aware of animal welfare.
Oh, of course, these wee small pets like hamsters are very often children's first pet, and it's a great way to teach them about the responsibility of caring for another living creature and making sure you keep that little animal as healthy and well as you possibly can.
And that's a great thing, Mark. Well, I think what I'm hearing you say really is, do your research and find out what that particular breed needs and take it from there.
That's absolutely right, Sharon.
The Q Radio Pets Corner.
We've all been made very aware of the issue around puppy farming, and joining me now is MP for East Belfast Naomi Long, who's put an early day motion to Parliament to crack down on the illegal sale of puppies. You're very welcome, Naomi.
Thanks very much.
So Naomi, this is an issue that you feel quite passionately about, isn't it?
Well, it is, because animal welfare is something that I have worked very hard at really since I was first elected. I think how we treat animals when they're so vulnerable and in our care is really reflective of the kind of society we want to have. The issue of how puppies are bred and sold, I think, is a hugely important one, both for prospective owners and also for the animals themselves.
So Naomi, what actually is the legislation that you're trying to bring in?
Well, what we want to see really is a ban on the sale of puppies in shops, because what that does effectively is breaks the linkage, if you like, between the licensed breeder and the person who purchases the animal. It's not a good environment for a puppy to be held in. It often means they have to be weaned early in order to go to the pet doors. And what it can end up happening is that you're actually selling puppies that are not from licensed breeders but from puppy farms, where bitches can be bred to the point where actually they are ill because they are so overbred. And so responsible breeders don't do that to their animals, and it's important that as an owner you actually get to see the mother, that you get to see the environment in which they've been bred, and that can't really happen if dogs are being traded either in stores or in markets or on the internet.
And of course, Naomi, the internet is a huge selling market for puppies, places like Gumtree.
Well, yeah, first of all, there will be people who for very genuine reasons will offer a pet for sale on Gumtree. They're much better to go through a sanctuary where they can then take home check. I think the difficulty that comes from the internet is, first of all, that people can be buying dogs that maybe are ill, and also, and perhaps more worryingly, the people who can purchase those dogs or take those dogs for free may be involved in animal abuse. One of the motions that I have put down is about the advertising of puppies and how that ought to be done, because I think it's really important that only licensed breeders ought to be able to sell dogs, and at the moment we find that that they're going through third parties or the internet that really weren't around when the Pet Animals Act dealt with in 1951. And so we need legislation to be refreshed to take account of all those new media for selling dogs, to make sure the basic principles are still maintained of dogs being properly cared for and only bought from licensed breeders.
The Q Radio Pets Corner.